What is going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today I want to talk to you about Beyond Meat. I want to go over some expectations for this upcoming week, what might cause volatility in the stock price, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up, and with that, let's get right to it. So this upcoming week is going to be fairly big for the market as well as Beyond Meat. So starting off with data, we do have ISM manufacturing and also S&P Global manufacturing. So that's coming out Monday. So that should be a fairly volatile kind of point. One thing to take note of though, in both cases, 50 is a key pivot. Anything above 50 shows more of an expansion. Anything below 50 shows more of a contraction. We do have a lot of Fed speakers throughout the week, so that in among itself could also cause a certain level of volatility. Aside from that though, we are starting to get a couple key labor data releases. And this is something because of the shutdown, we haven't really had all too much. So essentially that's also one thing that Powell did bring up, is because of the lack of labor data, you can't really make any kind of predetermined judgments for the December meeting. So that's one thing that really caused the market to get somewhat freaked out over. So on Wednesday, we do have ADP employment, and then also ISM services, and then challenger job cuts. So that is anticipated for Thursday. So like I said, those two data points are going to be fairly big for people's mentality for cuts in the foreseeable future. And then for Friday, we have the Michigan consumer sentiment. So another big inflationary data point. Massive companies putting out their earnings. So Monday, we have Palantir, him and hers, AMD on Tuesday, Robinhood Wednesday, yours truly as well, Tuesday after hours. So that's going to be a big deal. They did put out an 8K roughly around a week ago. They gave some current estimates. So you can kind of see that their net revenue is expected to be roughly around 70 million, and gross margins expected to be kind of between that 10 and 11 range. Operating expenses between about 41 to 43 million. Not all that great. So I think they kind of put this out just to rip off the Band-Aid. That way, when it comes down to the earnings, like the worst has already been somewhat priced in, and that's how I obviously interpret that. And anytime a company does that, it is just simply to rip off the Band-Aid. So even though current estimates for their earnings, which is slated for after hours, it's bad, I think the bar is set so low that Beyond Meat could potentially have some opportunity to really move higher. So earnings per share estimate, negative 43 cents, revenue 69.79 million, and then over the last 90 days, 0 positive and 4 negative revisions to the earnings per share. A little bit more deeper dive on that. So that negative 43 does work out to be a negative 5.3% year over year growth, negative 49, and then negative 38 is the high and lows. That's based on 4 analysts. As far as revenue, that 69.79 million does work out to be a negative 13.85% year over year growth. So I think a lot of stocks such as Beyond Meat, the market, I know this kind of sounds bad, but doesn't really care about their earnings per share or revenue. What they will really want to hear is their future guidance. Is there a turnaround plan? Of course, the company put out a couple PRs recently while the stock was really hyped up. So the management is very much aware of what is happening with the stock price, but Wall Street, if you want to get institutions on board, you really want to give them some optimistic kind of tune. And what are you doing to really turn things around? Because as much as a lot of people on social media are saying and buying a bunch of Beyond Meat, kind of the business has been struggling excessively. And that's probably very timid a way to say it. And hopefully you guys appreciate my viewpoint, because I'm not here to pump you guys up, nor am I here to bring you guys down. There's more than enough pumpers covering this stock now. It's just absolutely crazy. Even my kind of timeline just on Twitter is just all Beyond Meat, and it's a lot of just absolute crazy pumpers. Even this account right here, which surprisingly has like 42,000 followers, they're bringing up saying like breaking news, the cost to borrow increases from 5% to 46%. Just so you guys are aware, that's an annual rate, not a daily rate. Them jumping from 5 to 46% is nothing. Like, I always like to just call out non-BS, because people will take this and run with it and be like, oh my God, I need to buy into Beyond Meat right now because cost to borrow jumped from 5 to 46%, which technically isn't even correct. which I'll kind of jump forward. You can kind of see right here, the cost to borrow average is 6.35%, max being 7.67. So that is very, very incorrect and outdated information. So at the end of the day, do your own due diligence. But going back to their earnings for a second, I think just the bar set so low that Wall Street will not really care about the key metrics. They will really focus on the future guidance. So again, it gives management a little bit extra wiggle room and opportunity for the market to really see as a positive. But moral of the story is management really needs to kick ass. And like, they can't just be like, hey, you know what, we're thinking about doing this, we're going to be doing this. They need to really change their tune, because what they've been doing has not worked whatsoever. Aside from that, going into this upcoming week, 22.38% of the free float is being shorted. Works out to be 79.9 million shares overall are being shorted. So this is also another hot topic going into this upcoming week, just people talking about squeezes. So on Friday, shorts did return 5.68 million shares. So shorts have been fairly active. They do make up for a good like 40-50% of the daily volume. So every single day they are in and out, they trade back and forth. And so most likely anticipate that to occur this upcoming week as well. From a bull standpoint, you see a consensus for it to be roughly around that 2 to 250 by the end of this upcoming Friday. Bears are anticipating for it to be kind of between 1 and 150. For those of you that have been tuning into my channel, again, I'm not here to hype you up, but I did mention ever since it was roughly around that $3 range that theoretically you could see a pullback to around that $1.50, and that is exactly based on the technicals. You saw that gap. So as of Friday, that gap did get filled. So coming from a technical standpoint, there is some opportunity for it to really move higher. So that's, again, something just to kind of keep in mind. Unpopular opinion, because I know a lot of people generally don't like technicals and all that other stuff. But nonetheless, going into this upcoming week, you see it below that 10-day moving average, and it is kind of converging over that 50-day moving average. So usually that's not the best technical sign. It does kind of signal more of a kind of losing of momentum, and it's kind of going to break down. But with their earnings coming out, this kind of could change quite significantly. So you might see a secondary run potentially. It's all going to come down to the numbers. So I'm not going to, again, give you false hope and say, hey, you know what, this is a mother of all short squeeze, get in before earnings. The company got to where it is now for kind of just cause. Like during this whole time frame, shorts weren't really doing all that much. They were kind of just starting to taper off. Because of all this hype, they started to get back in. It drew them back in. But the operational side of Beyond Meat has been really lagging. And you can kind of see as well, just analysts are not optimistic. Even the most recent one that did come out October the 24th, it did get changed from $2 to $1.50. That was Mizuho, a sell rating. In fact, I think everything is pretty much a sell or either a hold. So there's not really much optimism coming from kind of analysts or anything like that. So let me know your viewpoint on Beyond Meat. So this is a quick overview, I guess, of some expectations. If you want me to live stream it, I can definitely do that for their earnings. But like I said, for now the 5th time, I'm not here to kind of hype you up. I'm not going to be shouting short squeeze, and all the other stuff if I don't feel it is kind of realistic. When it was at 65 cents, I brought this up. I did signal it as a buy on my Patreon. So when it was at 65 cents, I said, hey, you know what? Based on the circumstances, momentum, this could easily go to about that $4 to $5 range, which it did. As soon as that happened, I kind of amended it to $6, on which I kind of recommended that, you know what, profit taking might be advisable. And so far, everything has played out to a T. Even, like I said, it hitting that kind of $1.50 mark. So the gap was filled. So going into this upcoming week, I'm going to be doing a update on my Patreon. So for those of you that are on there, kind of stay tuned for that. If you are curious on where I see things going for this upcoming week, kind of price targets and so forth, pop over to my Patreon, link in the description below and also the comments. I put out daily day trades, numerous swing trades, and all the other fun jazz. But One thing as well, based on the actual options, you do see a expected move of 23.44%, and that works out to be almost a 40-cent move in either direction. So this earnings is going to be a very big deal for Beyond Meat. So let me know your thoughts on Beyond Meat. Where do you see things going? Hopefully everyone's having an amazing weekend thus far. And with all that said, appreciate all of you watching.